Hello everyone and welcome back. Last week I was a part of a crew that delivered a sailboat from Clear Lake, Texas to Corpus Christi. The adventure started late Friday with a long drive to Seabrook just to get our hands on Kinderspell, a 2001 J105. But the real fun didn't start until Saturday morning as we prepared the boat to push off. Sailing a performance sailboat on a multi-day delivery is a unique experience. We're talking no autopilot, no fancy touchscreen chart plotter, just pure sailing and teamwork. First, I want to say, I was honored to have the opportunity because this was an absolute blast. We battled minor engine issues, navigated narrow channels, and even faced some spirited winds offshore. But all these conditions allowed me to learn even more about sailing. Stick around because this is a story you don't want to miss. You'll see dolphins, a historic tall ship, and experience the beauty and challenges of the Gulf waters between Galveston and Corpus Christi. All right, let's get started. The crew consisted of John, with his vast local knowledge of sailing and the route, Tim, a retired Navy chief with a wealth of maritime experience, and Zaid, a sharp young sailor from Portland, Texas. And then there was me, eager to absorb as much as possible. It was truly a great group of guys, each with their own unique skills and perspectives that highlighted how much sailing is a team sport. We got an early start on Saturday. We had a light breakfast and of course coffee, checked out of the hotel, loaded the safety gear and food, rigged the sails, topped off the fuel, and set off. The weather was nearly perfect, with just enough wind for a gentle push home, although later that night it would feel more like it was shoving us like a schoolyard bully. Let's talk about Kinderspell. She's a 34-foot J105 sailboat with an 11-foot beam and a 6.5-foot keel, and she's built for speed. The boat is owned by John, a seasoned sailor who's made the trip between Corpus Christi and Galveston over 70 times. John bought her back in 2011, and she's clearly a very well-loved boat. This delivery was a new learning experience in navigation. We relied on a handheld GPS and kept a watchful eye on the water depth, the wind direction, and bearing. As a performance boat built for racing, the J105 isn't outfitted with the typical amenities you'll find on a weekend cruiser, like autopilot, chart plotters, or radar. I'm not complaining, and it's quite the contrary, because there was immense value in being more hands-on and focused on the actual art of sailing. John had some work done on the boat while she was in Houston, including the installation of a brand new boom. You can see him here checking out how all the lines are working with the new equipment. With this being a delivery trip, our main job was to get the boat from point A to point B. How we did this depended on the wind. Sometimes we sailed, other times we motor sailed to help things along, and now and then it was just the engine. We worked with whatever the winds gave us, and we were constantly adjusting to the conditions, trying to keep our speed at least 6 knots or better. Of the dozens of dolphins we saw, this is the only one I got on video. Once we cleared the jetties and took a southern bearing, we unfurled the jib. Finally under sail, the quiet of sailing replaced the engine's hum. Just outside the Galveston jetties, we encountered something truly unique, a square-rigged tall ship. It was incredible to see a piece of sailing history underway, and it was one of the many highlights of this trip. We followed the ship on the same tack for about 30 minutes until they tacked in front of us and we were able to see them from the broadside. We did a little research and learned the vessel is a 1877 merchant tall ship called the Alyssa that is berthed in Galveston. During the first night, we were treated to a stunning pink moon, which is the first full moon of April. The fullness lit up the water, which made the night watches even easier. We ran watches with 3-hour rotations during the day and 2-hour rotations at night, making sure we always had at least 2 people in the cockpit at all times. During our night watch, I listened as Jim shared his knowledge in celestial navigation with Zaid. He showed him how he used the constellations to steer to the bearing, explaining the movement of the stars in relationship to our course, and teaching him which stars to follow next. It was a true display of Jim's impressive skills as a sailor. The further we sailed south, the more the sea state seemed to build, so around 4 a.m., John made the decision to duck into the intercoastal waterway around Port O'Connor. This was my first time on the ICW, which was surprisingly beautiful, albeit nervously narrow at times. Sharing the route with barges adds a new level of focus and situational awareness. Even though we had a small reprieve from the wind, it was still enough to keep us on our toes. We needed to ensure we stayed in the channel and anticipate shallow water as we shared the ICW with barge traffic. Another surprise of the ICW were the countless dolphins along the way. Unfortunately, they didn't follow in our wake like dolphins usually do, so I didn't catch them on video. It was interesting to observe their behavior, how they would surface and then disappear like some type of little water ninjas. It was also interesting how the water changed dramatically as we approached Ranges Bay, from muddy and murky to a much clearer green hue. It was a really interesting visual difference in clarity in the subtle shifts in the ecosystem. Of course, every sailing trip has its moments that require quick thinking and teamwork. We were cruising down the ICW bare poles when the engine stopped and we had to quickly raise the sails. John was fast with his tactical actions, which was a testament to his skills and experience. He quickly assessed the situation, communicated the task to the crew, and we all worked together on short-term solutions. It was a valuable lesson in problem solving and teamwork. Once John regained control of the boat, we spent time discussing the possible causes of the engine issue, and after some troubleshooting, we determined the fuel gauge was faulty and we were most likely out of fuel. Here I am at the helm as we approach Corpus Christi Bay. We lost the wind protection of the ICW and the wind was sustained at 25 and building with gusts over 30 miles an hour. Unfortunately, just as we entered the breakwater, the added pressure on the head sail led to a failure between the jib halyard and the head of the sail, which meant we had to adjust our sail plan to avoid the approaching shore. We were in the breakwater with no engine, a partial jib, and howling winds, but with some skillful maneuvering, John managed to keep control of the boat and eventually docked the boat safely. The following day, I stopped by with my drone to take a closer look at the jib halyard. Just as we assumed, the head separated and there was no other major damage, and I'm sure the sail can be repaired. Looking at the Navionics track, we averaged 6.4 knots over 212 nautical miles. This was a very rewarding delivery, and the hospitality of John and his wife Miriam was first class. Oh, and I forgot to mention the food. On the drive to Seabrook, we had a great dinner at Prosix. In Seabrook, Miriam provided snacks and drinks at the hotel, and on the boat, John made delicious ham and cheese sandwiches and a fantastic tortellini and shrimp dish for dinner. Breakfast was equally impressive with egg croissants and cold brew coffee. I had packed ramen, oatmeal, oranges, and cookies, but they truly went above and beyond so I didn't have to eat like a college student.
Reflecting on the trip, I'm starting to realize how much I learned, not just about sailing, but about teamwork, communication, and the importance of being prepared. I think it's fair to assume that some of these issues might have been disastrous for other sailors. I'm grateful to John and the crew for the opportunity, and I also want to thank you for following my sailing journey one adventure at a time. If you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and consider sharing this video. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.